Keir Starmer's first 100 days in power have quickly descended into a political catastrophe, making headlines for all the wrong reasons. What was supposed to be a new era of Labour dominance has instead turned into a nightmare for the party. In just a few short months, Starmer has faced mounting criticism from all sides, and with the recent resignation of Sue Gray, his chief of staff, the cracks in his government are more visible than ever. Sue Gray's abrupt departure has sent shockwaves through Westminster. Gray, who famously led the investigation into the Partygate scandal, was supposed to be one of Starmer's closest advisers. Her appointment was seen as a masterstroke, an experienced civil servant who would guide Starmer through the complexities of governance. But now, less than 100 days in, she's gone. Gray cited concerns that her role had become a distraction for the Prime Minister, but insiders suggest the reality is far more damaging. According to those close to the situation, Gray became increasingly frustrated with Starmer's lack of direction and leadership. Her resignation is widely seen as a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister's ability to govern effectively. The internal row over pay is just one part of the problem. Gray's departure has laid bare the deep divisions and dysfunction at the heart of Starmer's government. Political commentators have not held back in their assessments of Starmer's performance. Speaking on GB News, Suzanne Evans, a well-known political commentator, described Starmer's premiership as an unmitigated disaster. "It's been pretty dire," Evans said. "I can't remember a government that became this unpopular this quickly. They've not had any honeymoon period at all, and they're already struggling to keep control." Evans wasn't the only one to sound the alarm. Michael Crick, another political analyst, pointed out that Starmer's biggest weakness might be his lack of political experience. "He hasn't got political instinct," Crick remarked. "Starmer has been an MP for just 9 or 10 years, and before that, he wasn't involved in politics. That lack of experience is really showing now. He's making silly mistakes that someone with more political nous would never make." Starmer's lack of judgment has been most evident in his handling of key policy issues, none more so than immigration. For months, the UK has been gripped by a migrant crisis, with record numbers of people crossing the English Channel in small boats. This issue has proven to be a major stumbling block for the Labour government, and Starmer's mishandling of the situation has only made things worse. Recent polling data paints a damning picture of Starmer's immigration policy. According to a YouGov poll, 68% of British adults believe that immigration levels over the past decade have been too high. Even more worrying for Starmer, a majority of Labour voters, 61%, share that view. The public's frustration with the government's failure to control immigration is growing, and Labour's decision to scrap the controversial Rwanda deportation plan has been seen as a sign of weakness. The death of 4 migrants during a Channel crossing just this past week has reignited the debate over immigration. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper expressed her outrage at the loss of life, calling the situation appalling. However, many believe that Cooper's words ring hollow. Critics have accused Labour of failing to implement effective policies to stop the dangerous crossings, and public anger is boiling over. Former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe was among those to launch a scathing attack on Labour's immigration policy. Speaking on GB News, Widdecombe didn't mince her words. "They've got no deterrent, no policy," she said. "What they did was scrap the Rwanda plan without putting anything in its place. The result? More boats, more migrants, and more tragedies. This government has created a complete policy vacuum." Widdecombe's harsh assessment has been echoed by many others who see Starmer's handling of immigration as emblematic of his broader failings. Labour's decision to abandon the Rwanda plan, which had been criticised by human rights groups but seen by some as a necessary deterrent, has left the government without a clear strategy to address the migrant crisis. As the number of crossings continues to rise, Starmer's government appears increasingly unable to manage the situation. The backlash over immigration is just one of the many problems Starmer is grappling with. His government has also come under fire for its handling of foreign aid cuts, a contentious issue that has exposed deep divisions within his cabinet. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, determined to cut spending, has clashed with Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who has been pushing for more funding. Lammy, a vocal advocate for maintaining the UK's international commitments, has warned that slashing the aid budget will have disastrous consequences for Britain's global standing. The internal feud between Reeves and Lammy has spilled into the public domain, further undermining the image of a united Labour government. The sight of senior ministers at odds with each other over key policy decisions has not gone down well with voters, many of whom are already disillusioned with the direction of the government. Adding to Starmer's woes is the growing perception that his government is out of touch with ordinary voters. The recent scandal over luxury gifts, including designer suits worth thousands of pounds, has only fueled accusations of hypocrisy. Starmer and several members of his cabinet have been criticised for accepting expensive gifts, despite pledging to clean up politics and restore integrity to government. These revelations have caused significant damage to Starmer's reputation. For a Prime Minister who campaigned on transparency and ethical leadership, the optics of accepting lavish gifts are disastrous. The public's trust in Starmer's integrity has been shaken, and his attempts to portray himself as a man of the people are beginning to unravel. As his 100th day in office approaches, Keir Starmer faces a moment of reckoning. His government is struggling to maintain control, and public confidence is at an all-time low. Polls show that his approval ratings have plummeted, and there is growing speculation that Labour could face a crushing defeat in the next general election if the situation doesn't improve. The resignation of Sue Gray is perhaps the most symbolic blow to Starmer's leadership. Gray, once seen as a steady hand who would guide the Prime Minister through the complexities of governance, is now gone. Her decision to leave, reportedly out of frustration with the lack of leadership, has raised serious questions about Starmer's ability to govern effectively. Labour's internal divisions are becoming more apparent by the day. The immigration crisis, foreign aid cuts, and the growing scandal over luxury gifts are all signs that Starmer's government is in deep trouble. His inability to unify his team and present a clear vision for the country has left Labour vulnerable to attack from all sides. The next few weeks will be critical for Starmer's survival as Prime Minister. If he cannot regain control of his government and address the mounting scandals, his time in office may be shorter than anyone anticipated. The public, already disillusioned, is unlikely to give him much more time to turn things around. In the end, the question is no longer whether Keir Starmer's government will face challenges, it's whether it can survive them. With his leadership under fire and his government in disarray, the Prime Minister's future looks increasingly uncertain. And unless he can quickly find a way to regain the trust of his party and the public, Keir Starmer may soon find himself out of office, his brief tenure remembered as one of the most chaotic and scandal-ridden in recent history. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more political updates. It was John. See you on the next episode.